Hello my friends, it's Lisa, and today I'm going to be chatting through what I'm planning to read for the Magical Readathon. So the Orilium Magical Readathon is hosted by G over at the channel Book Roast, so I will have her linked below as well as all of the information you need to know about this particular readathon. And with this readathon, basically like the bare bones of it is that there are 2 month-long readathons that happen every single year, and you pick a certain career or calling and you take classes and you complete prompts to be able to study that calling. But there's so much else you can do for this readathon. There's so much fun, like extra stuff you can do, but that's like the main premise. It's to complete your classes and your prompts for the calling that you choose. So the calling that I chose earlier this year for the spring equinox was the Star Whisperer calling, which I tried to match my necklaces and my attire to fit my calling. And in the spring equinox, I was successful in completing all of my classes, all of the prompts. So we can just move right along into my classes and prompts for the autumn equinox. I have my laptop here to kind of reference what classes and everything I need to take. And with the autumn equinox, there's various levels for each class. So there's the O, Q, and D level, and some prompts and some classes you only have to do 1, some you have to do 2, some you have to do 3. And so with all of the levels and all of the classes I have to take, I have to complete 8 prompts for the autumn equinox. So in August, I gotta complete 8 books. Can she do that? I don't know, because it's July 19th right now, and I have read 1 book this month. So I mean, it might be ambitious, it might be a bit of a challenge, but I'm gonna try my best. Oh, hello, Sam. Hello. Well said. I don't know if you heard that. He did a little meow. He's annoyed with me. He just wants to explore. Anyway, so yeah, let's just get into the prompts I have to complete and start chatting about my TBR. So with my TBR for this readathon, a lot of the prompts that I have some options for. I am a big offender of switching up my TBR for readathons. Every time I participate in a readathon, I will get like halfway through and be like, yeah, actually, I don't want to read these things. Let's change it. So I have given myself some options within a lot of these prompts, and that's just the reality of being a mood reader when you try to stick to a TBR. So I am going to go a little bit out of order with the Star Whisperer career. I'm going to talk about the psionics and divination prompts first, even though they are listed last on my classes, because, I mean, it doesn't matter what order you go in, but I want to do that one first because that's one where I have to do the O, Q, and D level prompts. So I have 3 prompts that I have to complete for that class. The first one is a little bit of a little fun activity, but it's a little bit of a tricky one. So I want to do that one first. So for the O level for psionics and divination, it is the introduction to tarot. So I have to use a random tarot card generator and find a symbol or something on the card and either find that same symbol in the title or on the cover of a book. So it might be a little tricky and it might take me a while, so I figured we'd start with that one. Okay, so in G's announcement video, she does have a random tarot card generator linked in the description, so that's what we're going to use. And I just have to click it, find some symbol, and then find a book that correlates. So let's tap it. Justice. Okay, there's a sword. There's the balance scales. That's the word I'm looking for. We have a crown, we have a person, we have a cloak, we have some pillars. Okay, I feel like a sword in fantasy books, like that can't be that hard to find, right? We'll find out. Okay, so that's my card. I'm gonna go and do some investigating of my TBR, maybe look at Goodreads, Libby, Hoopla, all of the things, and try and find a book that has one of these things on it. Wish me luck. Okay, that actually didn't take me very long at all. One of the first books I looked at had a similar symbol on the cover. So I'm very excited that that went not only quickly, but also well, because the book that I found was Bitter Blue by Kristen Kishore. This is the 3rd book in the Graceling Realm series, and I really enjoyed the first 2. I've been really wanting to continue on with the series. It just hasn't happened. So this feels like a really good opportunity. Also the crown on here, I don't know how well you can see that, but there is a crown on the tarot card that I got. So this just kind of worked out perfectly. I also feel like I have read, did I read Fire in the last Magical Readathon? I think I read Graceling during a Magical Readathon, so I just associate this series with this readathon, so it just feels very fitting. But like I said, this is the 3rd book in the Graceling Realm series, so I'm not going to read the description of what this one is about in case it spoils. I definitely think it will spoil some things that happened in the first book at least, but in this world there are these people called Gracelings, and they have these different abilities, these different powers. Each person has their own unique power and gift, and a lot of these people are feared for these things. So in the first book, we have our main character, Katza, who is able to kill a man with her bare hands. And every time I call her a girl boss, but it's just true. And I think her uncle is the king, and so she gets sent on these missions because of him to kill people. And then I think she ends up setting off on her own adventure. And this book, you are following the character Bitterblue, who you do meet in the first book in the series, but I won't say too much beyond that. I'm just really excited to continue on with the series. I'm very, very excited that this worked out this way. Okay, that was definitely one of the scarier prompts that I had, so I think that went well. But next up for psionics and divination is the Q prompt, or the Q level, and for that we are reading the future. So for this, the prompt is to read a book set in the future. Makes sense? So this is one where I definitely have a couple of different options. I am thinking, you know, readathons, audiobooks, those are kind of the saviors of readathons for me. They make getting through an 8-book TBR a lot easier. So I have access to the audiobook for How High We Go in the Dark, I believe is what it's called. Yeah, How High We Go in the Dark is what it's called. This is by Sequoia Nagamatsu, and I have heard really good things about this book. I feel like a lot of my friends have read this book and enjoyed it. But this is a short story collection, and it says that it follows a cast of intricately linked characters over hundreds of years as humanity struggles to rebuild itself in the aftermath of a climate plague. And I do really like when in short story collections there's links between the stories, even though they're their own individual stories. There's maybe characters that show up in other ones. So that sounds really interesting. And it does say that it begins in the year 2030, which is not that far from where we are now, which actually is kind of scary because that sounds like a fake year, but that's literally not that far ahead of where we are right now. But I think it, like I said, it spans 100 years. So definitely is set in the future. And then it goes on to describe some of the individual short stories, but I kind of don't want to read any of that. I just kind of want to go into this and see what the short stories are about and see what they are for myself. But it does say at the end of the description that we will go on a wildly original and compassionate journey spanning continents, centuries, and even celestial bodies to tell a story about the resiliency of the human spirit, our infinite capacity to dream, and the connective threads that tie us all together in the universe. Which, that just feels like the perfect type of book to read for this Star Whisperer career or calling. Am I right? I don't know. I'm interested to check this out. Again, like I said, I've heard a lot of really good things about this book, and also I am obsessed with this cover. I think it is so stunning. So I know that has nothing to do with the actual book, but I'm excited to read it regardless. So yeah, that's definitely an option for this prompt. But I will say, when I read that I had to do the prompt, that is to read a book set in the future, there is a specific book, a specific series that immediately comes to mind. And you know what? I'm always down to reread them. So, you know, the Lunar Chronicles are set in the future, so perhaps we will do a silly goofy reread. I don't know, we'll see. So the reason I have specifically Fairest and Winter here is because I think it was the end of 2021 I reread Cress, and I just haven't continued on and finished this reread, and I couldn't decide if I wanted to reread Fairest or just go straight to Winter, which is why I haven't continued on yet. And I'm still kind of unsure. Obviously Fairest is a lot shorter than Winter. I think this is like 200 pages and this is 800 pages, so for a readathon this would probably be a bit smarter to read. And I've also never reread this. I read it once. I thought, you know, it's important to read when you read the series for the first time. It is the kind of like prequel novella following, hello Sam, Queen Levana, who's like the villain in this world and in this series, so you kind of get a lot of context to her character. So I definitely recommend reading this if you're gonna read the series for the first time. But when I reread these books, I'm like, I just want to be with these characters that I love. I just want to be with Carswell Thorne. So I just always skip it and go into Winter. But this might be the smarter option to read for readathon, but also I may read this as well. I'm not sure. I may not even read these because I may read How High We Go in the Dark instead, but these are set in the future, so they're definitely an option. And if I get in the mood to do a reread or want to reread these books, perhaps that will happen. All right, and the last prompt for the Psionics and Divination class, it's the D level, and this is we're going to be studying omens, and the specific omen we're studying is the lily. So the prompt for this is to read a book with lily on the cover or in the title or a part of the author's name. I do feel like this is a prompt that I kind of struggled with. I did end up finding a book that I've wanted to read for a while, so I feel like I may read this one, but I would definitely love some other options if any of you have any suggestions for this prompt. But I think right now I'm planning on reading Writers and Lovers by Lily King. So obviously Lily is in the name of the author, so that will work. Sam is just walking around this whole video and it's very distracting. But Lily is the name of the author, so it definitely will work for this prompt. And to be honest, do I know what this book's about? not really. Okay, so it seems like we are following a young woman named Casey, and she has arrived in Massachusetts in the summer of 1997. Go New England. But she's arrived there without a plan. Her, I think, mother has recently just died, and I think she's trying to figure things out. She's trying to still live a creative life, it sounds like. It says she also like falls for two very different men at the same time, and she's trying to fulfill her creative ambitions. And it also says at the end that it's a novel that explores the terrifying and exhilarating leap between the end of one phase of life and the beginning of another. So I have a feeling this may hurt my feelings, but like I said, I've heard really great things about it, and I've wanted to read it for a while. So because of the author's name is Lily, it just feels like a good opportunity to do that. So that's what I'm planning to read for that prompt. But again, if any of you have any other suggestions, I will definitely love to hear them. You don't say. What is it? Why are you walking around so much? Take a nap. All right, moving on to the next class is Art of Illusion, and for this, I only have to complete the O level, so the prompt for that is for the levitation spell, and that is to read a book without touching the floor or the ground. And for me, this is gonna be, I think, a really easy prompt to do. I read either in my bed or on the couch, so I think basically any book that I'm in the mood to read, this will work for, but I do have a few options. I did decide to go with some shorter books though for this prompt, just because this is a prompt where I could really read anything I wanted, and I want to make sure my TBR is reasonable and not too overwhelming. So one of the options I have for this prompt is Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring Blake. I know this is a relatively like difficult and heavy read, but it isn't a super long book. Yeah, it ends on page 289, so it's not a very long book. I think I could fly through it. The font is relatively big, but I think that this, like I said, will be an emotional read, so I don't know if this will be the vibe, but it is a 5-star prediction for the year, so I do want to make sure I'm reading some of those. And basically every time I talk about this book, I read like kind of the first like sentence or two of the description and leave it at that. I kind of don't want to know too much more going into it, but it says Mara and Owen are as close as twins can get. So when Mara's friend Hannah accuses Sam, why do you want to be involved so bad today? I mean, you're doing great. This book needs the cuteness. Anyway, it says Mara and Owen are as close as twins can get, so when Mara's friend Hannah accuses Owen of rape, Mara doesn't know what to think. I think it's gonna be, like I said, a pretty heavy book, but I don't know, it's short. I think I could get through it relatively quickly. I think it's also because of it, the like heavy topic and subject matter, I'd want to get through it quickly so that I could not be sad for the least amount of time as possible. But I'm also thinking another option for this is Saga Volume 10. This is by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. I have yet to continue on with the series. Volume 10 came out either beginning of this year or end of last year, and I still haven't read it, even though Volume 9 ended on such a cliffhanger and there was like that long hiatus that they took in between Volume 9 and 10. Still haven't read Volume 10. So I feel like regardless of whether I read this for this prompt, I really want to try and get this into my TBR for the readathon somehow. Okay, so my next class is for astronomy, and this is another one where I have to do the O, Q, and D level classes and prompts. So I have 3 that I have to complete. And for the O level, we are learning a moon song ritual. So the prompt for this is to read a book that has a word in the title from the last song you listened to. So I'm going to look at Spotify because I was listening to music before while I was getting ready, and I'm going to see what the last song I was listening to was and find either a word or some words from the title and find a book that also has those words in the title. Does that make sense? I'm not sure. I'll also do another screen recording so you can see what comes up on Spotify. You can see that I'm not lying. I think I remember what the last song was that I was listening to because it's been stuck in my head the whole time I've been filming, but we can confirm. So let me exit out of the tarot card. Let's go to Spotify, and the last song I was listening to is You're Just a Boy and I'm Kind of the Man by Macy Peters. You know what? Having a long title in a song like might be helpful because there's a lot of options here. But now I'm gonna have to use my brain and find a book that has these words in the title. I mean, the is in the title of the song. I could read a book with the in the title, right? Also, what a bop. What a great album. Am I right? Okay, I'm gonna go find a book that has one of these words in the title, maybe more, I don't know. I feel like it should be easy because it does have the in the title, but we'll see. And we'll come back once I have a book picked out. Okay, I have come back with a few different options. I do feel like having the and I'm in the title of the song was a little helpful. I feel like I definitely have more options than what I have in front of me right now, which is nice because now I know I have a lot of options if I don't feel like reading any of these things, but I do have a few options. So a couple of them are Save the Date and The Mothers by Britt Bennett. Both of these books I had on my summer TBR, so I figured these would be good options, and they both have "the" in the title, which I know is like not the most exciting word from the title of the song, but it's in there and it's in these book titles, so I think it counts. Save the Date is a YA contemporary that I have put on so many TBRs and still haven't read it, but I did read Since You've Been Gone, which is the other Morgan Matson that I've also been putting on TBRs for years, and I finally read it. And you're following this girl who I think her sister is getting married, and they are trying to organize this wedding, and everything is just going wrong, which could stress me out or it could be fun. I don't know. And with The Mothers, I have read The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett, and I absolutely loved that book, so I have a feeling that I'm going to love this as well. And this is a book that I still don't know a ton about what happens, and I kind of want to keep it that way. I just know we follow a character named Nadia who ends up dating the local pastor's 21-year-old son, Luke. But there are some secrets because of this teen romance that ends up going far beyond their teen years, and that's really all I want to know. I know it's probably going to be an emotional read, so I feel like one is a little more lighthearted. This is probably going to hurt my feelings, but I do want to read both of these, and like I said, they were on my summer TBR, so these are definitely options. And then I have another book that has a word in the title that isn't just "the," it's one of, you know, the more interesting words from the title of the song, I guess, and that is A Man Called Uwe, Ove, Ove, Uve. I still don't know. I know I knew at one point, and that information has left my brain. So obviously man is in the title and in the title of the song, but I'm scared to read this book. I've owned this book for like 2 to 3 years now, and I still haven't read it because I'm terrified. I know that I am going to sob, and I'm just not prepared. So I don't know if this is going to be the vibe. I don't know if I'm going to be in the mindset to read this book. I don't know. I don't know anything, but it is an option for sure. So I do feel like one of these 3 books is going to be the thing I read for this prompt, but I'm just going to kind of see what I'm in the mood for and what calls to me in the month of August during the readathon. But yeah, that was a fun prompt. I definitely feel like that could have been a lot harder depending on what song I last listened to, but it was kind of easy, and it was also very fun, so love that. But the Q level, the next prompt that I have to complete, is for a lunar alignment, and that is to read a book from a finished series. So this is actually kind of harder than I thought, because a lot of authors will be like, yeah, this is the end of the series, and they'll be like, just kidding, here are more books. So I never quite know when the end of a series is. But I do have a couple of options for this one as well. And the first one that I'm thinking of leaning towards is Before the Devil Breaks You. This is by Libba Bray, and this is the 3rd book in the Diviner series. Like, pretty sure this series is done, so I feel confident with this one. I read the first 2, The Diviners and Layer of Dreams, over the past couple years. I reread The Diviners last year and read Layer of Dreams for the first time last year, and I really enjoyed the first 2 books in the series. I'm a little nervous to continue on because I feel like the second half is when it goes downhill for a lot of people, but I do want to finish the series. I want to see how it all wraps up and how it ends. And this series takes place in the 1920s in New York City, and there are a bunch of these characters that are called diviners, which means that they have these different powers and different abilities. And within the first 2 books, there are these weird, mysterious deaths and things happening that these characters are also trying to solve. I really enjoyed the first 2, like I said. I feel like because this is the autumn equinox, we're preparing for the fall and autumn time, reading a spooky-ish book could put me in that mood, and so I may read this one. I feel like this is the one I'm leaning the most towards, but I was also thinking that I could continue on with the Cruel Prince series, Folk of the Air series, is that what it's called? I read Cruel Prince last year, and I do want to continue on with the series, and they're also like relatively short books, so I feel like I could also read the 2nd book in that series, The Wicked King, or the novella. There's like The Lost Sister, is that what it's called? I don't know. There's like a novella that takes place in between the 1st and 2nd books that you can read, so I may read that as well. I think that series is technically finished. I know Holly Black is writing more books set in that world, but it's the start of a new series, I think. I don't know if this necessarily counts. I definitely think I'm leaning more towards the 3rd Diviners book, but this is definitely an option as well. And then for the D level prompt, it is The Blood Moon, and that is to read a book with a red cover. So once again, we have options. I have a couple of holds through Libby that may or may not come in during the month of August. They may come in before, so I'm not really sure if these are going to be options, but if they do come in and I want to read them in August, we will. So one of them is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This is the companion sequel kind of thing to A Part of Your World, which I read last month, 2 months ago. I I don't know, I read it sometime this year and I enjoyed it, so I want to pick up the companion. But in this book, you're following these two doctors and they kind of are like enemies in the workplace. They're kind of rivals, but then I think they start writing each other these letters. I don't know. I don't really know too much about it. I kind of just want to go in and see what happens because I did enjoy Part of Your World so much. So excited to read this one, and this is also a very red cover. Another option I have for this is The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the third book in the Inheritance Game series, and at this point, I just want to read this book so I can wrap this series up. I know that there's going to be a fourth book that's coming out, but I think like the main story that we've been following so far in this series does wrap up in this third book. At least I hope so. I think this third book, whether it wraps the story up completely or not, might be the last book I read from this series because I think the stories in these books are fine, but I don't love them. I think they are the most mediocre books that I've read. A lot of people hate these books. A lot of people love these books. I don't feel like these books elicit a strong enough reaction from me one way or the other, but they are interesting. The mysteries are interesting, and at this point, I want to see how the main storyline kind of wraps up. So I think I want to read this third book, and my hold might be coming in the month of August, so this is definitely an option as well. And then my third and final option for this prompt, I really don't think I'm going to need this. I think Yours Truly or The Final Gambit will be what I read. One of them will be what I read, but it's just in case for some reason those don't work out. Libby does me dirty and I don't end up reading them for some reason. I picked out Vengeful by V. Schwab as kind of my backup to the backup. I know technically I think it's supposed to be a red cover and this just has red on the cover, but it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. But Vengeful is the sequel to Vicious, and in that book you're following Victor and Eli as they are college roommates and friends and start experimenting on themselves to see if they can give each other or give themselves extraordinary abilities. But then you also see them in the more like current timeline where they are clearly not friends anymore and Victor is trying to hunt Eli down. And this book, I think we're still following Victor and Eli. Like I think they're still characters in this book, but you are following a lot of other characters who may or may not have extraordinary abilities. And I've heard mixed things on the sequel, but I really enjoyed Vicious, so I definitely want to continue on with the series. I think there's going to be a third book in this series as well. I know that's been something that's been talked about for a long time, so who knows when it's going to happen, but I do want to continue on. But yeah, I don't think I will probably end up reading this for the readathon. It'll probably either be Yours Truly or The Final Gambit, but I like to have many backup plans. I like to be prepared. And then the final class that I have to take is for lore, and for that I only have to do the O level, which is Tale of the Guide, and the prompt for that is to read a bookseller or librarian's recommendation. So I really luck out because one of my besties, Darian, is kind of both things. She is currently working at a library, she's going to school to become a librarian, and while she's in school, she works at a bookstore. So she really covers all of the bases. So I texted her asking her for some recommendations with the rule that she had to be nice to me, and she did send me a few different options. So she gave me the options of Where Dreams Descend, Beyond the Black Door, In the Ravenous Dark, The Song of Achilles, nice try, and The Chandler Legacies. And with those options, I feel like it was only fitting for me to choose Beyond the Black Door by A.M. Strickland. This is one of Darian's favorite books, and I've been meaning to read this for so long. I keep putting it on TBRs, and it hasn't happened. So this just feels like the right move. And Darian sent this to me, so it's all just adding up. Actually, she sent me In the Ravenous Dark, The Song of Achilles, and The Chandler Legacies as well. So honestly, all of them would have fit, but it just feels like the right move. It feels like this should be what I pick. But this is a standalone fantasy where we have this main character who is able to, I think, like travel through people's dreams. Or no, it's soul walkers. They're able to travel through other people's souls while they sleep. And her mother has always told her that she shouldn't go beyond the black door. She shouldn't open that door. But I think this book kind of kicks off with her doing so, and that's all I know about it. That's all I want to know. I've heard really good things about it other than just from Darian. I feel like other people really enjoy this book as well, so I feel like this is going to be a really fun time. I also love that it's a standalone. I love the idea of standalone fantasies. I need to read more of them. But that's actually it. Those are all of the books that are on my TBR for the Magical Readathon. Obviously, there were a lot of prompts where I just had some options for, so I would love to hear your input if there was a book that I gave as an option for one of the prompts and you think I really should read it. it, definitely let me know. But I am planning on doing weekly vlogs throughout the whole month of August for the Magical Readathon, so if you want to know what I actually end up reading, what the final TBR is, I would maybe subscribe, stick around, hang out. I would love to have you here. Plus, there's just some fun things happening in the month of August. My birthday's in August. We have some fun concerts that I'll be going to and documenting, so if that sounds like it's up your alley at all, I'd love to have you hang around. I would also love to know if you're participating in the Magical Readathon as well. Let me know your calling, what books you're reading, anything that you want to chat about. I would love to talk about this readathon with you all. I just love this readathon so much, so definitely let me know if you are participating. But that is going to be it for my Magical Readathon TBR. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.